Welcome, everyone, back to Fortunate Fishes. And today we have Sophia Castro, an R360 member with an incredible story. Sophie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Charlie, for the invite. I've been looking forward to being on this podcast, and I finally got an invite.
Yes, of course. So you and your husband, Bobby, started a company that grew into a billion-dollar empire. Neither you nor Bobby graduated from high school, which I think is amazing. Tell us about the moment when Bobby, who had already failed in many businesses, talked to your poor mom and she whipped out from her bra like $1,700.
Love that story.
That is a great salesman.
Yeah. So Bobby and I met when I was 18 and he was 22 years old. We both come from very humble families. We both went to the same high school, but Bobby's 4 years older than me. So I didn't know him in high school. And we both had dropped out of high school without knowing each other. You know, both of us with no high school diploma and no college education, no family money, no family mentors. Nobody in our families had been entrepreneur except one brother of mine, but he lived away in New York and was not around to mentor us. And when I met him, we started dating right away. And he tells me, I'm not going to work a 9 to 5. I'm not going to have that steady job. I don't want to work for anyone. I don't want to live my life the way my parents lived theirs, nor my grandparents. So, that's something that I want to tell you up front so that I don't have, because his ex-girlfriend broke up with him because he didn't want to go to college and he didn't want to have a 9 to 5. So he told me this off the bat. But for me, it was like, I didn't have anything different or anything to go by of like working 9 to 5 or being an entrepreneur. I was like, hey, if you want to be your
Right.
own boss, why not? Right. So
But he was
he,
still working like 3 or 4
he was
jobs
doing
though.
sales jobs. He was
Right.
doing commission jobs. He was selling coins. He was selling timeshares. He had like 2 or 3 different commission jobs. So and nothing steady, nothing that he was like constantly having a paycheck in his, bank account. So it was like week to week, basically with
Right.
him. He had nothing steady. As a matter of fact, when I met him, he had no car.
Wow.
So that's, yeah, he would just get a ride from this one, from that one, ride a bike. I mean, it was not, he had zero.
And how old were you both when Priscilla was born?
19 and 23. We got pregnant 6 months after meeting.
Wow.
Yes.
I know Bobby had like 2 or 3 businesses that didn't go anywhere, but at some point he made a pitch. I don't know if he was pitching your mom or he was just talking at the table, but she felt inspired enough to back him.
Those businesses that failed, I had already met Bobby. So when I met Bobby, he had no businesses. He only was working commission jobs. And so when we met, we kind of like, he's like, why don't you just help me create these businesses? And actually, the first business that we did was not almost, it was a Craigslist. But back then it was 1989. I met him in December of 89. In 1990, so there was no computers. They had just come out. So there was no internet, none of that technology. So Bobby was trying to do it through newspapers and ads and stuff like that, and didn't have the money to be able to place these ads to sell the things like Craigslist does,
Right.
So we literally created Craigslist before Craigslist existed. But obviously we flopped because we didn't have no financial backing nor any technology to back us.
Right.
That was the first business that failed. Then he tried getting into a business with other people that was also in the finance, loaning microloans. And that also failed because of no capital and because of having no mentor behind us, that we didn't understand how to really run a successful
Right.
business per se. And then finally, Bobby decided, we got pregnant and we're like, okay, we got to let go of this business thing right now. We need income to be able to maintain this baby that we had, because none of our parents had the financial means to help us. So that meant me going into getting help from the government to be able to get insurance for the baby, get diapers, this and that. And it was like against our wills, but we had no choice at that point because we both were working, you know, minimum wage jobs at that point. So during that time, Bobby was working at the Better Business Bureau. He got a job at the Better Business Bureau as a salesperson. And at night, he was working at Rusty Pelican in Miami as a waiter.
I've been
So
there
he had two
so many
jobs.
times. What a yeah.
Yeah. So during that time, he was still looking at the USA Today, 'cause back then it was still the newspaper, looking for opportunities on how we could create a business. And he comes across a business that was a leasing broker, a equipment leasing
Right?
broker. What did that mean? No clue at that time. We're like, what the heck is this? But it sounds like something I could do because it's sales, and Bobby was an amazing salesperson. And happens to be that on the list of customers that he needed to call in the Better Business Bureau, this business also comes up as one of his leads. So he was like, wow, what a coincidence.
Wow.
I'm looking them up for a business opportunity, and I'm also getting them as a lead for the Better Business Bureau. So he had the opportunity to speak to the owner on both, on the Better Business license and as a business opportunity. And the gentleman was an older gentleman at the time. He was already in his late 70s. And he just fell in love with Bobby's personality. The chemistry was there. And he told him, listen, I don't believe in the Better Business Bureau. I don't want this license. I think it's bullcrap. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy the Better Business license because of you. And you buy the manual from me as a business opportunity. And I will promise you that you will succeed. I will put all my efforts on teaching you this business because I want to retire soon. My kids don't want this business. And I'll give you my book of business. But it was $1,700. And we didn't have that 1,700. So my mom, like we lived at my mom's house, was listening to us talking, and I was explaining to her what the hell, everything. And she's like, she looked at Bobby and she's like, listen, you can't tell Pedro, which is my dad, but I'm going to give you a savings that I have it just in case anything happens and we need to have a backup for
Wow.
paying the bills or food, but you have to promise me that you'll replace it as soon as possible. So she didn't, the little thing that Bobby always says, she had everything in her boobs, a Cuban, I don't know if anybody out there is listening and you have a Cuban family member or mom or grandma, you know that they put everything in their bra. So she took it out and she gave it to us, and she said, you guys, all I ask for is that you really put the effort into this and that you don't lose this money because you're not putting what you need to put into it.
And what are the big things that you learned? Because you and Bobby built this business together. Then it became a family business where he invited his brother, who was younger. Your sister-in-law came in, and then you guys, basically for the next 20 years, built it. And you had a lot of ups and downs. So I know you like to advise women entrepreneurs. What are the big takeaways that you have from the lessons you learned in the school of hard knocks, if you will?
Yeah, it was not easy, to tell you the truth, because we didn't have any education and we didn't have the financial backing nor mentor. What I learned from it is a few things, and I'll give you the few things that I've learned. Number one was the focus. When you focus on something really hard and you don't let the outside noise interfere with what you're doing, and you put those horse blindfolds on and you focus on the project that you're on, it will flourish. I can guarantee you that. Nothing else is going to happen, but it will flourish because you're so focused and you're so determined that nothing else matters. That was my number one.
In my early business career, I would focus on 5, 6, 7, 8 different
Hmm.
things. And
Yeah.
what I found is that when you really focus, you see an onion with 50 layers and like, oh my God, I'm only on layer 3. If I'm going to master this to provide value to get paid, I got to get to the 50 levels, and that's going to take time and focus. So I agree with you
Yeah, and I
100%.
learned that, Charlie, the hard way because I was one to do the same thing. I have ADHD. I love, number one, I love people. I'm a social butterfly. I love to do 50 things at once because that's just my
Yeah.
personality. And at the beginning, it was very difficult to be able to get this business to roll. And Bobby was the one that told me, listen, if we're going to make this happen, we cannot do what we did, the same mistakes that we did with every other business out there, that we took it as like a game. Like we were like, okay, we'll do for 2 minutes, and then the rest of the time we'll go do something else, or we'll go here, or we're gonna, go to a party or go talk to friends. Or
So, what advice do you have, or what kind of things did you hack to stay focused and not go down chasing some shiny object?
a list, Charlie. And that was Bobby again that taught me this. We had a to-do list that was a daily one, a monthly one, and a 3-month one. And we had to make sure that those dailies got done. They needed to get checked off, because if those dailies didn't get checked off, that means that your monthly goals would not get done. And your quarterly goals were definitely not going to get done, right?
Which means you also had a yearly plan, and I'm sure you had a 3 year.
Yes.
So,
But we liked 100%. We
yeah,
had a 5-year goal.
right. So, this is so important. This is so important. I want to stop here because you had an operating process. We use EOS traction, and it's yes, this is my 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year. But then you got to say, what's my quarterly to hit that 1 year? And then
Yeah.
what am I personally responsible for? What is Bobby? And then what am I doing today that's going to drive that quarterly goal?
You have stepping stones that you need to step on a daily basis in order to reach that. And that was very difficult at the beginning.
So that's the focus. And I guess also, like, okay, it's the weekend, you're taking some time off, but I guess on Sunday, you got to look at the week, you got to look at everything and say, okay, these 50 things that need to get done, these are 5 that I have to get done tomorrow. And that goes on your checklist.
100%. So for the first 5 years, we stopped having Saturdays and Sundays. There was no such thing. Saturdays and Sunday did not exist for us. And that was very difficult for me, not for Bobby, for me,
Right.
because again, like I told you, I love my family. I love my friends. And Saturday and Sunday was my social time. Well, I had to let go of social time. And that was hard. My mom was right next to us with our kids. She was amazing. If we didn't have her, there was no way that we would have been able to accomplish it because of the kids.
So number 1 is focus. And you've told us how you hyper focus by having the goals and compressing it down to what are you doing every day? Are they driving to your monthly, your quarterly, your yearly, your 5 years? And you could easily look at your calendar. What else did you learn?
The other thing I learned was having a mentor accountability, right? We didn't have the money to hire somebody. So at that point, it became us four: Eric, Bobby, and I. And we would sit down and huddle, and like we each had our own responsibilities. We would sit down and say, hey, because your part is not getting done at this part, it's kind of interfering with mine. How can we adjust so that this flow could go a little bit easier?
Bobby was like sales, Eric was operations. What did you and Barbie do?
Barbie and I would do all of the credits and processing of loans. The actual business was, let's say that a doctor needed an x-ray machine and a table, right, for his office. That back then, remember, this was
Right.
1994 or something like that. Banks didn't really finance these things. So we would have alternative finance with other outside banks, community banks that would do this, but they didn't know how to go directly to the customer, or the customer didn't know how to go to directly to these small banks. So Bobby would do the sales, and then we would find the banks that would want to finance this for the business owners. So Barbie and I would do the application and submit them to the different banks that we knew that were gonna approve them or not. And then Barbie would be the one that would fund these deals, meaning once the bank would approve
Right.
them, we had to have a contract with the complete,
Right, and
information
then you
on
would be and you would be basically taking a commission on every loan that went out. That's how
exactly.
it started.
Yes, that's how it started. We were commission based by these banks.
Right, and then it grew to something so big because I know you started with doctors and dentists, and then you went to lawyers. I've moved all over the country, and I still get your things in the mail, and then at some point, you created an auction where you had thousands of banks competing, and you would take the best loans for yourself, and then you would syndicate the others, but that's when it really grew, and then you ended up selling, I guess, 49% to Pinnacle, which is one of the top 10 banks in the US that became a partner. And tell us also, you guys brought in a financial partner, and I've had difficulty in several of my startups in my career bringing in the wrong partner, which is devastating. How did you orchestrate, like, making sure that he was the right person? Because he ended up with a third of the business, right?
Yes, yes. So in 2001,
Yeah.
we were already dealing with this partner in a outside source. He was the one that was sourcing the actual banks, because he had that license to deal as a
So
bank.
so you already had a working relationship with the
But we didn't
individual.
know him personally.
Ah,
We
okay.
would work with him online and send them emails and stuff like that, but didn't know him personally. And in a gathering that the bankers did, they invited us all, and he was there, and we got to meet him in person. We both were very excited about meeting each other. And when we met each other, and it was at Martha's Vineyard, we clicked very, like, instantly. It was like an instant click.
And this thing at Martha's Vineyard was like it was like a function for people in your industry, and that's
Correct.
got
But
it.
a very small, intimate. It was
Right.
like intimate one. It was only like 10 people that they invited. So we went, we met each other. We kind of like instantly, Bobby, Eric, him were like, okay, this is a great, they had a great meetup. When we got back home, we were like, okay, we'll be in touch when we get back home. When we did, Bobby was and Eric were like, we need to talk to this guy. We need to, see how we go in together and get this business more into a real business and stop being brokers, because we have the opportunity with him. He knows the inside, we know the outside, and
Right.
we need each other. So that meeting became explosive because when we got back, it was, I think, a matter of 2 weeks. He flew down to Florida. We sat down and we instantly said, okay, we got to let go of being a brokers. Let's create our own lending business, and let's become lenders, and let's take this at, full force. So that happened in 2001.
And did you have to have when I had my broker dealer, I had to have certain amount of regulatory capital to get approved. Do you need that as a lender also?
We did, and we had our $25,000 of our own money. That's all
Right.
we had back then. And our business partner also had, I think similar amount. I don't remember how much he had, but we put that into one of the banks. And we told them, we're going to put this in here so that we could, do this business, and we'll use your services. So they backed us immediately. Obviously, they knew our business partner
Right.
extremely well. So they were like, okay, definitely we'll back you. That was one bank. And we started with that one bank, and we lent, I think it was only 2 loans that we had enough money to fund at that point, right? Um, and from those 2 loans, we approached the other banks, and immediately they're like, "We'll give you a line of credit. We'll give you a line of credit. We'll give you a line of
Wow.
credit." And that went from having, just $50,000 in the bank account to now having $1 million in line of credit. It was in our money. We had to pay on that money, but we were making such big margins that it was okay.
Right, and the finance guy, I imagine he had all the experience with the bank, so he could, like, go in there and talk.
We had all the experience with the upfront sales.
Right.
So
And he was in New York, right? So he
correct.
stayed in New York, but you were
Stayed
able
in New York.
to, I imagine, talk every day and were able to make that
Yes,
partnership blossom, and he's still a partner,
correct.
right?
And still, he's still in the business with with Eric, our brother-in-law. It was only Bobby and I that stepped out.
Right.
Their pinnacle, Eric and Al are still in the business, and the business is thriving and growing, and it's doing way more than when we got out 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago.
Right, and it was over $1 billion valuation, and you guys got
Correct.
out, but then you set up a new business,
Yes.
basically, and the new business was cash flowing real estate. Tell us about that. How did you get into it? What did you learn? What happened in '08? Where are you now? And what do you like about that particular business?
Yeah, so actually, we started the real estate business with our partners in BHG in
Okay.
2004.
Okay.
We decided that we were going to get into the condo conversion because back then condo conversion was huge. So condo conversion is that when you buy an apartment building and you vacate everybody and you individually title each unit as a condo and you sell them individually. So it becomes a condo, not an apartment building. And because we had the banking relationships that we had, we went out and bought 82 million dollars in inventory at that
Wow.
time. It was, I want to say that it was about a total of like 8 different apartment buildings throughout. And there were, anywhere from 150 doors all the way up to like 400 doors per building,
Wow.
right?
So
So
aside from your own business, you decide to get in a new business because this is a business.
running it,
And
could just
right,
both of them at the same time.
right.
Yes.
So you're buying these buildings, converting them over so that you can individually and at
Sell them.
right. And how did that go for you guys?
So that was a journey on its own because none of us had experience in that kind of real estate.
Right.
So it was a big journey because we didn't understand that number one, you had to convert them. We knew we had to convert them, but we didn't know that it would take about a year to a year and a half for title to convert them into individual units. So we would buy these buildings and we had zero income, meaning we had to pay the mortgage on these buildings for that long with zero income.
Wow.
We didn't know that if we would have been smarter at that time, we would have left the tenants in the units getting cash flow while we were converting them into condo conversion. We didn't know. We thought, oh, we're going to evict them, get them out, and we're going to sell these units. Well, it wasn't that easy. We did wrong. Number two, we had a hurricane during this process, and
Wow.
we didn't have the proper insurance on the buildings. And we had a few buildings that got damaged during the hurricane. So now we were not covered and damaged in the buildings that we wanted to sell.
Wow.
So that was another experience that we weren't familiar with insurance. And then the financial crisis comes and starts in the end of 2006, beginning of 2007. And we were in the start of selling units.
Right.
We had gotten over the hurricane. We had gotten
Wow.
over the hurdle of converting them. And here comes the financial crisis. We were like, oh no, what do we do now? No one's buying. And the ones that did buy, they couldn't afford to continue paying the mortgages. So we had to foreclose on a few people during this financial crisis and zero income.
If you had to go back in time and do it all over again, what did you learn and what would you have done different?
God, what would I done first is understand the business that you're getting into. Become at least a beginning expert, right?
Right.
Learn it and understands the pros and the cons before you go in so that when you go in, if you get a lot of the cons, you know how to overcome them. We had no clue of the pros nor the cons. We had another business and we were successful on getting a business from zero to something. We thought we could do this for real estate.
Right. So tell us now, because you guys were over leveraged and I guess you were guaranteeing loans with your own business. So now it's like, holy crap, I may lose the real estate and I may lose my business. So what happened then?
This is why we were able to survive,
Right.
was because that $82 million that we had gotten 110%
Right.
LTV on the buildings, 110%. Not 90, not 80, no, 110. So we couldn't even sell the buildings if we wanted to, because the value on the loan were way over what the value of the properties were. So that was number one. Number two, we had guaranteed it personally and with BHG. So if we would foreclose, we were going to lose everything personally and our business that was feeding us to being able to survive, or even our personal and the business, everything. We were going to lose. We were going to be homeless.
Jesus. So what did you do? Like, what did you
At
do?
that point, we huddled.
Pray. Like,
We huddled and we said, guys, we need to put our thinking caps together. We cannot fail. We have put too much work into BHG to lose it. So we need to sit down and think, because we can't just say, here, bank, here's the property, because we're going to lose BHG. So we huddled, and what we decided was we were going to divide and conquer. So Al and Bobby went to BHG and said, we are going to go in BHG and focus. We're going to put on our horse blinders. We're going to focus on this business, and we're going to see how we could scale in the financial crisis. We're going to scale this business. Eric was divided into both because he's operation.
right.
So he was helping Bobby and Al, and he was helping then me and Barbie went into the real estate part, and we took over real estate and said, okay, what are we going to do here? So we decided to put tenants back into all these units so that we could get some kind of cash flow, even though that at the time we weren't going to cover all the nut,
Right.
but even a dollar would help us, right? So me and Barbie went back in there. We filled back up all of our units that we had with tenants. And that's how we learned the rental business, the, real estate rental. And we were able to then, as the income started coming to his building, at least sell off some of the buildings that had tenants and income, even though we went to the closing tables and we were coming out with money to close on these deals. We were putting back money down out of our pocket to close the deals, because we had to pay off that bank that remember, 110% of the value. So whatever they would buy the building for, we would have to put the remaining balance to make sure that that bank came whole.
Right. Right.
But BHG, Bobby and Al were able to go after these doctors because no bank was lending. Remember, at that point,
So it was an opportunity.
we were not regulated by the OCC or FDIC. No one. We had private money. So at that point, the doctors were hurting.
So you had no competition.
We had no competition. Now they were paying usury. We were going to usury law because we were paying for money
Right.
that we were borrowing, and to lend it to them. But we were, at that time, Charlie, BHG became a superhero. It went from here to here in 2007 to 2011. It thrived because nobody was lending for businesses.
Wow. So what's the lesson there? Because I often see that where there's a crisis. I mean, even, R360, my wife Christina reminded me yesterday. It's like, I remember we were living in Cambridge, we were in the middle of a pandemic, and you said, I'm going to go out and start R360 and I'm going to raise $10 million and we're going to do all this stuff in the world. And she looked at me and said,
You're
you're
crazy.
crazy. But, and that happened to you guys, that you stumbled into a situation where all the banks closed shop because of what happened in '08. You're not regulated. You have doctors, dentists, lawyers that are looking for money for their business. And there you were. So all of a sudden, that must have been a hell of a surprise for you guys.
Oh my God, we were like, what? And, it was something that was unsurreal, but it was happening. And we just took the momentum and again, it wasn't like if we were taking advantage of anybody. It was they needed it, and we had the capacity to be able to lend
And
it.
how many employees did you end up growing to by the time you left?
By the time we left, we were close to 1,000 employees. We were like between 800 to 1,000. I can't remember. Right
Right.
now, they're probably at 3,000 employees.
Wow, so they've really, scaled it. I know I talked to Eric recently, and they've
Yes.
changed the mix
Their
too,
models, they have changed a lot of things in BHG. And I think now, because of AI,
right?
they're scaling down on employees, actually.
Right, no, that makes perfect sense. You and Bobby got into Art360, and you came from very humble backgrounds, didn't graduate from high school. You've created so much wealth now, and how many apartments do you have now? How many buildings?
So we have a total of 14 buildings, but with doors, we have about 2,800 doors. So that's
Right.
about,
So those are
each
units, and
building.
those are 1, 2, 3 bedrooms that and
Correct. Anywhere from studios to 3 bedrooms.
right, and the beauty of that is that, every month you're getting cash that's coming in from the rent. You're also getting depreciation, which helps with your taxes, and then you can redeploy that cash if an opportunity comes up to buy a new building. When you buy these buildings, what's the strategy?
So our strategy has changed from the start to today. And we change our strategy every 3 years. We'll see what the market is calling for. But we have buildings that we've bought where they're already cash flowing, but they need some work, some tender love and care. We have bought brand new buildings that are ground up and the developer builds them and they want to sell them right away. And we've also have done ground up. So we've done it all. So right now we're in class A and B.
And tell me about the leverage, because I know that's a big thing with you guys. You were at 110%. You probably learned that lesson. So what do you do now?
Right now, across our portfolio, we're about a 55% LTV. That means that we have loans that are based at 50% of the value of our total portfolio. Each individual building could vary anywhere from we'll get a loan for the 60% and we'll put 40%. Sometimes we put 35% and then we get a loan for, so it depends on the market.
That's very unusual because most, like, private equity real estate funds are at, like, 75 to 80% because they can make more money, but there's a lot more risk. But since you guys own this yourselves, you're not looking to impress anybody with returns, and if the market, crashes, with that low of a LTV, you would have no issue with the cash flow supporting.
Correct. Correct. So that you could understand as well, the listeners, when you have a building, you want to underwrite it that 50% of your tenants are not going to pay you for some reason. Let's just say for some reason. So we have 50% that will pay, that will cover the loan that we have on the building and expenses, right?
Got it, and you're at
So,
55%, so you got a little cushion,
right.
right? And what is the percent now that these buildings are rented out? Are they in the 90%?
So our portfolio at the moment, we're about a 90, I believe it's 97
Wow.
percent occupancy. Now, each individual one could be 94, 98,
But
99,
that's
but
that's
across
very
the
but that's
portfolio,
very high, and
yes.
right. Tell me about the lessons that you learned from a property management side, because you gotta manage all these,
Ooh,
and
yes.
tell me what you learned there.
So what I learned is that underwriting a tenant, like if he's applying for a loan, because you're giving him a 1 year loan. This is what landlords don't understand. They're thinking, oh, they're just going to pay rent and let me just let them because they're nice people. I want them to live in here. I know them. Or, oh, poor thing, they're a single mom or a single dad, and I want to give them a place to live. Well, I understand that, and I have a soft heart myself. But what I learned that is when I went based on my heart, I ended up getting screwed, right? They wouldn't pay us. I would have to then evict them. That an eviction costs us anywhere from 1,500 to about $5,000, depending how complex the eviction is. So I started underwriting them as if we were giving them a loan for a year. Meaning, if let's do an easy math, if I'm renting out the unit for $1,000, that means I'm lending them $12,000, right? So I would underwrite that tenant, still, we underwrite that tenant as if they're applying for a loan for $12,000, not a
Got it.
monthly fee.
Got it.
So we look at their credit, we look at their bank account, we look at the stability of their
Right.
job or of their career, because it could be that they just moved to a new job, right? But
Right.
that doesn't mean that the person is not stable.
Right. And then at some
So,
point, you made a decision to outsource it to professionals, right?
yes, we did. But we still manage the management company,
Right.
right? So
Because you've done it
we,
before, you know,
correct.
you got to stay on top of it. And
Yes, because each management group will manage it the way they want to, right?
right.
Not the way that the owner, they're not the owner. They don't care if they lose money or if they increase the rent. They don't care about that. They just want to do their job that's inside a square box, and that's it. So what we did with the management company is that we interviewed many and we told them, listen, we're owners that have managed many buildings of our own, and we want to continue with our protocols and the way that we managed our property. We just want to hand it over to you. So we want to give you our protocols,
Right.
and then we'll mix your protocols with ours. And then we do want to be, so we'll do bi-weekly meetings with them, monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, just like our goals. We do the same with the management company.
So tell me about your family now, because, you know, one of the reasons that you and Bobby sold the company was basically to get out of the rat race and enjoy your life. So what are
Yes.
you doing when you're not managing property companies? Um, what are you focused on? Tell me about your family, your grandkids, and how do you maintain as the matriarch of the family, like a cohesive unit?
We've been so blessed. We have two children. We have Priscilla, that's 34, and Brandon, that's 29. They're both married with amazing spouses. They have been involved with us in our business from day one, even when they were babies. You know, we always had them in the business, showed them the ropes. We would tell them, you could go do whatever you want, but this is our business and we want you to understand
Right.
it so that if you want to come in, you could come in. They both chose to go to college and they didn't make it. So they came back home and we're like, you have two choices, in the business or go find a career, but you're not sitting home and living off, just because you think that we're doing good, that you're going to do nothing. So you have to find your path. So they both chose the path of coming into the business and learning it.
And what year was that, did they came in?
So my daughter came in 2011.
Okay.
And our son is 5.5 years younger.
Right.
So he had to finish high school and went to a year of college. So he probably came in 2016.
Okay.
Um, so they're both very involved and very blessed to have them, because we have a family office now that we run, very cohesive, and their spouses are actually very prominent inside the business.
I was talking, believe it or not, to a journalist this week, and they're like, "Oh, you know, Bobby and Sophia's kids just bought a building on their own, and like they weren't even involved." That's pretty cool. I just heard that.
Yes. Yeah. So they decided, my son has been taking the lead on that. Him and his wife wanted to have something outside the family office because they wanted to feel accomplished. They wanted
Of
to see,
course.
how can we do it alone, so the day that you're not here, we know that we could take
Right.
over, right? Because with us in the driver's seat, no matter how much we give them the co-pilot seat, it's still not the same, right? So our son decided, I'm going to try to do this on their own, still being in the family office, but we want to buy something on our own. So him and his wife bought buildings on their own and managing it on their own. Small little buildings, And then now told his sister and Eric's two daughters, hey, why don't us four with our spouses get together and let's buy a building, and we manage it and we learn it and so forth. So Their first building got closed December 1st.
Wow.
It was a $3.2 million deal. I think it's 16 or 18 doors, and they're doing it on their own.
Is it in
We
Florida?
didn't It's in Florida, in Broward, and we did lend them the money, but we're charging them a 6% interest only deal. So I mean, they're getting a good, but we do, again,
And they
we're
gotta
giving
manage it themselves, right?
responsibility. Yeah, because if they want to do it on their own, we can't give them the money and gift it to them and think, here you go, and that's too easy, right? So we told them, you guys want to do that, we'll lend you the money, but you're gonna have to pay it back. Even though it's funny because they're paying it back, but it's going into their trust.
Right. I wanna talk to you about the Vanderbilt curse. So, if you go back to, like, 1898, Vanderbilt had the equivalent of, like, would have been 100 billion then, and none of it lasted. Look, he was very philanthropic, gave away a lot to universities, library stuff, but he didn't do a good job of training the next generation, the second and third. And you and Bobby have been very diligent. You introduced me to Richard Orlando, who's a just amazing guy. He's written books on the subject. Tell us about why you did that and what was your goal with the second, the third, fourth, and other generations with the wealth that you guys have created.
So, Charlie, it happens because I wanted to learn when we sold the business is when I started learning about generational wealth and legacy, right? It was like, we're like, we have this huge chunk of money. And now we're like, okay, we don't want our kids to become trust fund babies, but we also don't know how to store them into being good leaders, right? Because we didn't really know it well. So I started reading about different families that were successful and different families that had failed badly, Vanderbilt being one of them. And I said, wow, this is amazing how when you don't teach and you just leave behind all this legacy or generational wealth, and they don't understand how to manage it, right? Because they're like, here you go, billions.
And you hired a guy that had a lot of experience working with families of wealth. I think you've been working with them for 3 years, and
Yes.
you've had some bumps along the way. So, what have you learned, and what are some lessons that you have for other families?
We hired him because Crescent, who manages our money, we explained this to them, and he's like, we have the right person for you. Introduced us to Dr. Orlando at Legacy Capitals. And we then hired him, and it has been amazing, the transition that we've had with our children. One being that they're doing their own thing
Right.
because before they didn't even have an idea. But we hired them and we said, and one of the reasons why too was Richard Branson. He told me about his 100-year legacy that he was working on.
So you decided to do a 100-year blueprint, and that we hear.
Yeah. And I'm like, love this. I
Right, and
love
we
this
went
100.
to, I
It's
was
a
looking at a
nectar.
picture with Richard with his R360 shirt some years ago. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We're gonna go back
Yeah, and
there.
he gave me an hour of his time
Right.
to explain what he was doing, and I came back super pumped because I had already started reading into this. So I hired Dr. Orlando, and now we've been about 3.5 years with him. And what he does, Charlie, is that it he's a counselor. He counsels us individually, together as a family, and we now understand to bring everyone's opinion, and then we communicate, we compromise, and then we come up with a plan. Because, like, our children said, Mom, Dad, you guys are putting all the rules and regulation, but when you're not here, times have changed. Your
They're gonna
your
have to
way is
exit.
so
There is no
old.
100-year
We have,
plan, Priscilla says,
yeah.
if I don't execute, right?
If we don't execute in the way you want to execute is so different than the way that we want to execute. So bringing Dr. Orlando has made an amazing change in our family because we all understand each other. We all know what roles we're going to take. We all know the plan on how we're working towards this 100-year legacy, and everyone is on the same page.
And what do you do with the young like, you have what's your oldest grandkid now? How old?
She's going to be 10 years old next month, and the youngest is only 9 months.
Wow. So what do you do, like, what do you do different raising grandchildren in a family of wealth? I mean, you know, you guys have private planes and yachts and, how do you ensure that they don't become privileged and they have a purposeful life?
Yeah, so that Dr. Orlando has helped us as well. Believe it or not, communicating with them that little, they understand, right? And we explain to them, and we do a lot of charity work. So we take them so that they could see the underprivileged of what the others don't have compared to what they have. And they see it with their own families, right? Like cousins that they see that don't have what we have. And we say, guys, it's not that we were super lucky. We worked very hard, but that doesn't mean that you could just spend it and that you think that you're better than them. You have to understand that there is rules and regulations and that you have to work towards it. So one of the things that we do is that we do put them on commercial planes every once in a while, right? When they go on vacation, we're like, nope, the plane is not available. You have to go on commercial, right? I know it sounds crazy, but we do that. We'll, when they go to friends' houses, hey, you have to go at the level that your friends have. If they don't have this, you're not going to take your phone or you're not going to take your backpack, the Gucci backpacks or whatever. You have to understand that other kids don't have to, I don't want you showing off something that's going to make them feel bad. And they get it. My grandkids are so kind that even with their own little cousins, when Christmas comes around, they want to give up their gifts so that they could give better gifts to their cousins. So they're very, very aware that we are privileged, but because we worked hard and that the other cousins, so we try to teach them that. So they're very well level headed, let's say. Um, and also Dr. Orlando's helping us with them. So they come into meetings with us.
Right. And then tell me about, you and Bobby didn't really have good mentors. I know that he spent like 2 years coaching and mentoring, a dozen entrepreneurs from businesses, from 3 million in revenue to even 100 million, helping them grow. And you've mentored a lot of women entrepreneurs. Tell us about that and why it's, that important to you.
Yeah. So, when we left BHG, one of the things that we noticed was that a lot of entrepreneurs had the wants, the needs to become successful, but they didn't have the strategies, right? And we didn't either. So that was something that we said we want to give back and be able to help others learn these different strategies, help them learn that you could do it if you just put this in place. So we decided to do, mentor others because we didn't have the capacity of having a mentor back then, or didn't we didn't know about mentors. And when we did know, when we found out,
Right.
we didn't have the financial means for it, right? So that was something that we wanted to give back in order to feel accomplished on helping others. Now, Bobby's still working with 8 to 9 figure businesses, helping them either scale or get ready to go out to the market to sell their businesses.
He's great. And he's on our
Yeah.
strategy team. I spent a whole afternoon with him and Angel on strategy. He was extremely helpful. So that's great. And what do you see, like, what are your big goals over the next 30 years? What are you and Bobby thinking? Because I know you guys you have a school in like Durban, South Africa. You guys travel a lot. What do you see as your life going forward and your legacy?
So what I see in the next 30 years until I'm not, until I have to go to heaven, I want to be the steward of teaching the next gens. I'm hopefully get to see, another next gen. Right now we're on the one, two, three, two next gens right now. Hopefully we'll get to three. Teaching my kids how to be able to continue passing on that baton to get our generations to continue as far as we can. Learning how to be kind, learning how to be in the charity, be philanthropists, and continue to compound our wealth so that we could give that next gen's purpose, and be able to do good in this world, to have a legacy of, like, I want to use the Rockefellers because everybody knows them.
Right.
There's so many other families, like the Hobby Lobbies to me is one of my favorites because he's amazing, but not too many people know about them. I want to be one of those families that we have been able to continue compounding our wealth, and at the same time doing kind things for others in the world, that we are making, giving purpose, showing others that you could do it, and our next gens to be able to represent that.
One of the things I love about R360 is we have 17 members now that didn't go to college. We have 11 that didn't graduate from high school. Half of the 11 are billionaires. And now, with AI kind of where you have the best teachers in the world, everybody thinks that you need to go to college to succeed, but that's obviously not the case. How did you and Bobby, kind of overcome not even graduating from high school to be so competitive in one of the most competitive industries, which is finance?
I sit down every day, I want to say, and when I'm doing my meditation and doing my gratitude, and I'm like, how do we do this with zero financial means, zero education? And again, I have to contribute it to being focused and wanting to get somewhere, and not to be repeating our generational patterns, right? And I think that the focusedness, again, has a big play.
Also, work ethic. I mean, you said there was no Saturdays and Sundays. Everybody says you got to have a work life balance. And I said that's total bullshit because
No.
most entrepreneurs, myself included, we're obsessive. We get so obsessed over something, and you just have that hyper focus.
I like to call it harmony, because when your business needs you, you're 100% focused on that business. Family and friends, you need to wait.
Yes.
And I will give you my attention, my time when I finish here. And then I will once that business is running a little bit, that the machine is running, I will then give you the time that I need, or even give myself the time that I need for a timeout. If it's a day, if it's a week, if it's a month, I don't know. It all depends. So I call it harmony. Where do I need my time at the time that we're talking about?
And tell me about, one of the most important things for Bobby, I think that has made him successful is this whole concept of PMA. PMA all day. Explain what that is.
Yeah, so PMA all day, every day is a positive mental attitude all day, every day, right? We go through ups and downs, the bads, the goods, or the sad and the happy. You have to take that moment, whatever situation's happening, and look at the positive outcome instead of drowning in the negative part of it, right? So if you're in a part that the business for some reason is not performing the way you want to, okay, why is that not performing? Let's get a solution instead of focusing on the problem. That was another thing that we were able to be successful, because we would focus on the solution, not the problem.
I wrote a post on Substack on what are the 4 books that have most influenced people that have become billionaires and accumulate a lot of wealth. And the one book that kept coming up was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is very similar to, Bobby worked in a restaurant, so he's working for tips. So he has to get people to like him. And I also, I guess something he learned from his own mom was about value. Like if you can't give someone 3x the value for whatever it is that you're doing, you're not going to be successful. And the focus has to be on them liking you because you're really providing like 3x the value of what they expect. And how did you guys do that in the business and in everything that you guys focus on?
Yeah, that was our main mission, was how do we provide value at the same time receive value, right? It has to be equal, and that's where Bobby comes out with non-refundable minutes as well, right? So non-refundable minutes, think about this. Your minutes you can never get them back. You could be the president of the United States, the prince of whatever, the queen, whatever you are. You could be the trillionaire, and you can't buy minutes. Your minutes, once they are gone no matter who you are. So those minutes, your time is super valuable. Bobby always likes to tell people, you need to calculate how much your minute is worth. So if you go to somebody that is draining you out of your time, your emotions, your everything, and they're doing nothing with it, and they're being negative and they're bringing you down, why are you wasting your time on those people? They're not taking your value, and they're not giving you value,
I call
right?
those energy vampires.
Drain. Yeah, they're suck you dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started looking at them, and including family members, because we were putting in a lot of time because we want our families to succeed, right? We're like, who better than to give our time than to our families so that they could come up the ladder with us? Well, we noticed that we were like, wait a minute, we're giving you all this time and you're doing absolutely nothing with it. And then you sit there and you're complaining all day. So we're like, okay, no, this has to stop. We'll give value to the ones that receive it and do something with it. That brings us value. So that value exchange, whatever it is, has to happen. And that's your non-refundable minutes.
And I think, you and Bobby both have that entrepreneurial gene. They've done studies like 10% of Americans, they have it, I have it, and we are comfortable with risk. If we fail, we start again. We just don't like working for other people. But many people have created wealth that were employees, they worked, that kind of, rose to lead the company. But for entrepreneurs, what are the like valuable things? Obviously, you got to focus, but if you were to start all over again, what would you do differently given everything that you know today?
I think I would do, like I said before, is what industry would I want to go into? And master it before you get into it. And I'm not talking about mastering of like going to a company and learning how to do it. No, it's reading about it. Information. Yeah, be passionate. Intake the information of the pros and cons, and then determine, you know what? I'm not going to be passionate about this business because I really don't love the cons on this business. Let me look at this way. Let me pivot to see if this is a way. So I would really look at the pros and cons and see if the cons, you could be passionate about it, because that means if you fall, you're going to be able to get right back up, not lift up. You're going to jump off because you're passionate about it. When you don't have passion and you can't focus, there's no way that you're going to be able to succeed.
Yeah, and we have, one of the members, his strategy was, look, I think I want to go into this business, but I don't know anything about it. So he ends up joining a business very similar, and he
Yeah.
spent 7 years working 6 days a week, 20-hour days. And not only did he get all the experience, but he also met somebody that worked there, and they decided, let's go off together
Mhm.
and do this and take everything that we've learned, the relationships. So you can also go work
Yep.
somewhere.
100%. That's your 5-year plan, 10-year
Right.
plan, and that's in there.
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah. And I have another R360 member worked in two different companies. One was really good, one was really bad, but he said, look, the lessons of what not to do are as important as what to do?
I say that's your doctorate degree, Charlie. On your failures or the bad part of any business is where you learn the most. Now, you take those failures and you don't learn from them and you repeat them, that's where you're completely dead in the water,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
I'll never forget my grandfather said, "When you learn to shave, try to learn on someone else's face first." And I never forgot that. Another thing that's really important, health, spirituality, you talked about meditation. Tell us about some of the habits that you've cultivated yourself in order to give you the type of energy that you need to live a healthy life. What are the types of things that you guys are doing? What's your routine?
Health and wellness for me is extremely important. It's number one because without your health, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
It means absolutely nothing. So I biohack my longevity a lot. So, I have a routine in the morning. I wake up, I do my meditation, I do my prayers, I have my red light therapy, I do a workout, and then I do sauna. That's on a daily basis.
And are you working out every day, 3 days a week?
I work out 5 to 6 days a week. My 5 Monday through Friday is a non-negotiable. Saturday and Sunday is, varies on what's happened. I have a trainer just because I like to work. I don't like to have a workout partner, but I also don't like to work out alone. So having a trainer gives me that balance that I need. I have somebody there, holds me accountable, but they're never gonna not show up or be late or determine my showing up or not
Right.
because, "Oh, I'm sick, I don't feel like working out." Their personality or their mood is not gonna interrupt mine.
I have my red
Oh,
lights
okay.
I can
Well,
do
I
on
have the
at my
full body
while
one.
I'm at
Yeah.
my desk. It tell us
Yes.
tell us why you do the red light and why that's important.
So to me, the red light, doing research on it, it shows so much internal healing, inflammation, your bones, your brain, the clarity. You don't feel it externally, you don't feel it, but internally, it does a lot of good things for you, which at that point gives you longevity,
Right.
right? So,
And I find that the most important thing for longevity is what goes into your mouth. Um,
oh,
and what
100%.
what does your nutrition look like?
Oh gosh, I'm a freak with my food because it's not only what I put in my mouth, is the ingredients of what I put in my mouth. So a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm eating only 100 calories or, 1,000 calories." And I'm like, "Okay, but are you reading the ingredients of what you're putting in?" "Oh no, it's, on the outside of the box it says that it has no sugar or this or that." And I go to read the ingredients and it has circulose that they don't have to put in. It has enriched wheat. It has citrus acid.
I went 120 days with no processed food of any kind. If it was processed, it didn't go into my body. But it's hard, and it's not cheap either. But what are some of the strategies that you follow for yourself?
So I haven't had processed food in over. I was 39 when I decided to have zero processed food, and I'm 54. It's been
Wow.
a long time. I could go starve. I will not stop anywhere to eat. Like I just won't do it. So we hired a health and wellness assistant. She cooks for us. She knows all of our supplements. She schedules all of our like health and wellness, chiropractor, acupunctures, our trainers, our masseuses. She makes sure that weekly we are doing everything that we need to do in order to keep our health intact.
The only bread I'll do is sourdough if it's made by hand and it's
Yes.
complicated. So I
Yes.
only have 2 people that I take it from because I know they're doing it correctly.
Yep.
But
Yes. Same here. She does our sourdough. She does the mother or whatever it
yeah.
is, and it cultivates for weeks. And yeah, I'm very, very picky on what I put on my food in my body. Even with my supplements, I'm very picky. Like I even look at the ingredients that goes into the supplements.
Well, I'm like that, for 10 years also. I get my water. Comes
Oh,
and
my water.
my water comes from Austria. It's Holstein water. My coffee's made
Yeah,
with that. It's
same.
like the water is so important, and it's anywhere I go in the country, I get 5, 10 of these 5-gallon jugs that we put into the little machine. But my father died when he was 61, and he was a heart surgeon, had a lot of stress. He drank, and I realized that if I want to be around to see that second, third generation, maybe fourth, if I get lucky, I got to live till like I'm 101. So, our mutual friend Peter Fioretti has a plan to live to 120.
I want to follow his footsteps.
101, for me.
Yes.
And you have to take care of yourself. I just went on I'm going to do one 7-day fast every year. I just finished one because your body shuts down and it starts eating everything bad in your
Yes.
body. And I think, you'll get just as much results from a 5-day, but they say if you do one 7-day fast, you'll reduce your chance of cancer by over a third. So I figure, well, if I do one a year, knock on wood, and maybe I hear good things that they're close to coming out with something even next year because of AI around cancer, these big drug companies now. So, knock on wood, but that's super important. By eating well, by exercising, by meditating, massages, you're creating a high level of energy so that you can get all these things done because I'm sure you're as busy now and when you were working in the company, you were just focused on different things.
Yes.
And do you still
I
use the things to do for the week, for all that stuff?
Definitely. Oh, yeah, Bobby will never let go of that strategy. Yes. He holds me accountable on that strategy. He's always, "Let me see your list." And, Bobby likes the physical list. He doesn't like the phone one, electrical. No, he likes that physical list. So we have like a little physical list, a book with all of our to do. And yes,
Well,
100%. And if we don't, we miss out.
how long have you, Bobby, been married, and what advice would you have for couples about, especially if you're working together, which can create a lot of stress?
So Bobby and I have been married 35 years just this October. Actually 36 years that we met in
Right.
December 10th. This is again sitting down and saying, how did Bobby and I get through 35 years being 18 years old and 22 with no money, going through ups and downs, and still here today, fully in love, wanting to still do life together, and we're like, how do we do it? But I sat down and we have I call it the 3 C's. Communicate the goods, the bads, the uglies, the wants, the needs, but really listening to each other, because if you don't listen, there's no way that you could understand the communication. Once you do that, then you have to come to a compromise because you're not always going to be on the same page. Bobby and I have completely different personalities. So we need to compromise. That doesn't mean that you're going to sacrifice anything, meaning you're compromising, you're in a partnership, and you have to somewhat meet in the 50-yard line. And then we complement each other on a constant basis. Thank you for doing that for me. Thank you for doing this for me. I love you. You look so handsome today. You look so sexy today. You complimenting so that you could feel good, so that you could again communicate, compromise. Because if you don't have all three, there's no way that you're going to be able to get through those ups and downs in a good way to be able to make it to that finish line.
That's amazing, but the problem, you said something that sounds simple, but putting into practice is a different. So, communicate, compromise, compliment. So, I have 3 daughters. I had to hire a coach and found out that, I don't know if you remember Neha, the doctor who was an
Yeah,
emergency
I
room
remember her,
doctor,
of course.
and there's 5 levels of listening, and I was on level 2. So, I had to hire a coach to take me to level, I'm at 4 now, I can get to 5 sometimes. I have a timer, 8 minutes. I can only listen and say, "Uh-huh, tell me more." And while they're talking, to get to level 3, I have to think, what are the emotions and what are different names for the emotions? Can I get 5 of them while I'm listening? And then I can repeat back, I'm hearing a little anger, a little frustration, maybe a little jealousy, or, is that what you're feeling? So now I'm trying to connect and I'm like, oh, dad's actually listening to me. Really? And now when they're talking is, how do I connect the feeling to a value? That's level 4. Like, look, I know you value friendship and loyalty and integrity. And it seems like what just happened to you is really going against those values. So I'm really proud of you that those are your values. And it does hurt when, somebody steps over something that you value. And then to get to the 5th level, you got to tie emotions and values to purpose. which is harder. But it's like that really speaks volumes for you. Yeah. So you go to college for 4 years. Why don't they teach you how to frickin' communicate, how to
Yeah.
listen? If you can't listen, you can't communicate. Most people are just, while you're talking, I'm thinking what I'm going to say instead of actually listening. It's
You want to react instead of listen,
right.
you know? So, yeah.
And then like, at least with my spouse, she has, we're totally different, and she has certain superpowers that I don't have. So if I need to do something that requires those superpowers, I will delegate it, and she'll delegate to me. But the best decisions are usually decisions that you make together, because you're
100%.
not going to get what you want. They're not going to get what they want.
Yeah.
So usually it's the better. But then you also have to trust that in some things, they're just going to come at better solutions and better decisions, because for whatever reason, they're built in a certain way
Correct.
that they're going to do that better. And you got to like trust them, right, on those
Yep.
type of things. And then the compliment is so because you give energy. And when the energy is high and you screw up, easier to forgive and say, I understand. But if it's really low because you're just picking away and da da da, and then you get into an argument or something and there's no energy,
There's no energy.
not good,
Yeah.
because then it's going to be mad for days, weeks, and you're going to grow apart, start saying things you shouldn't be saying to each
So
other.
then you go back to not being able to communicate because they're not listening. You're not going to compromise. So none of them work without another. And we like to say the compliment is just like having a tree or a flower. If you don't fertilize it, it can't grow. So the more you fertilize it, the more it grows. What does that mean? That when you go communicate an issue or something that you want to accomplish, they're listening, that you're able to compromise to meet at that 50-yard line to be able to get this done. And then the more compliments, it just all becomes like, ooh, fireworks.
And I imagine you've taught this to your kids, right?
100%. And it works with everything, Charlie, not only on your personal relationship, but on a business partner and with your kids. This three C's to me is so well rounded around your whole entire life. It's the 360 of being able
Yeah.
to have that with everybody that you have a relationship with.
I
If
agree.
we
Yeah, yeah,
didn't with our business partner, we would have
absolutely.
never been able to make our business go where it's at right now, right? And complimenting and compromising, all of it, it just goes all in a full circle in everything you do in life.
Well, talk about full circle. I was born in the Georgetown University Hospital in 1961. At the age of 2, my father went back to Panama, so I grew up in Panama because my grandfather had heart issues. My dad's a heart surgeon. But we just launched the DC group last week with 16 members. So I'm back in DC, which was just kind of a full circle kind of thing. And then after the meeting, I'm with my daughter who lives outside of DC with 3 grandkids. And like you said, it's like the circle of life, you know?
The full circle of life. Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's so cool when you see your kids that, I remember when, she was at the
They
NYU
were.
hospital and I was the second person to hold her. And now she's running around 3 bambinos herself dealing with,
Well,
and I leave there wondering, how the hell did I do it with 4?
I know. Yeah, I don't know how you did it because I did too, and I don't even know how I did it.
Yeah, no. So what did I not ask you that I should have asked that you'd like to answer, and any kind of final words for listeners, young, old, about some of the life lessons that you have learned and the hard way that you'd want to leave them with?
One of the things for the young individuals, um, I would tell them to not let anybody tell you that you can't do something you really want as long as you know that you have that passion and that focus that you're going to do whatever it takes to get there. Because Look at Bobby and I, no education, no financial backing, no mentor. And it was all based on focus and passion that we just didn't want to follow that generational pattern. And we got there and they told us we were crazy and that we would never get to be able to succeed or to accomplish what we were looking for. If we would have listened to the outside noise, we would have never gotten there. And to the older ones, don't let the age interrupt. I'm 54 years old and we are not that we're starting all over again. That's not what I'm saying. But we pivoted from having something that was an oil machine that was there already, that we went from 0 to 1,000 and we had it all settled and we said, you know what, we're done. We did what we needed to do here. Let's pivot and start our new venture. We're doing it. We're thriving. We are loving life right now. And Bobby's 58, I'm 54, and we're enjoying life more than ever at the moment. So don't let age ever stop you from pivoting in life. It's and just do it. If you want to, you're going to do it. It's a matter of having perseverance, and that's all that matters. And to women, I love empowering women. There's a lot of women that have become moms and that's what they wanted to do, and they've had the opportunity because their spouse had the capacity to run the financial household, and that they became a mom, and that's their fulfilling of life, which is a job. I call it the CEO of your household, and that is amazing if that's what you want to do. But you get to a point in life where your kids, you become that empty nester and now you feel that you have no purpose. Don't take that empty nester as a bad thing. Take advantage of starting your life again and starting to pivot into something beautiful, either training the next gen and being their mentor or starting something of your own. But don't allow that because I was a mom, because I let go of my career, because I now have no purpose. No, you always have purpose. Don't allow that to stop you from doing anything you want. So everybody in life has the opportunity to do whatever they want as long as they go inside their spiritual soul and say, I'm going to focus, I'm going to have, passion, and I'm going to persevere no matter what, and listen to no one. Only listen to the ones that are going to help what you want to do. Don't listen to the outside noise.
Awesome. That is so, so cool. And I'm going to end with the final question. You are an R360 member. Why did you join and what benefit, or what would you tell other people that are thinking about R360 in the future?
So R360, I'm going to be biased because, I'm a founding member. I started, Charlie, it was all you. I mean, of course, I'm here because of you. I sat in Tiger in your group, and when you told me about it, I was so passionate about it because it was exactly what I was looking for. You're in a group with like-minded individuals. They have the same goals. They don't judge you. If you need help, you have all of them that you could call. I swear I've never called one member that have turned me down or that have told me I can't help you. Number two, I feel so comfortable. We sit in these meetings and we could talk about money, about failure, about, success. And everybody is cheering you on no matter what. It's a family, it's a friendship. I now have so many friends because I met in R360, and it's only been what, 2, 3 years?
Yeah, we're
And
up to
I literally consider
177.
them more my friends than anybody that I've met in a long time, just because you feel such an amazing bond because you're in, the same level and nobody's judging you, whether you fail or you succeed, or you talk about financial monies and they don't look at you, oh, that's rich problems, rich people problem, right? They're like, oh, I understand. Let me help you. And we have so much fun together. The trips that you cultivate is my favorite. I look forward to it every year.
You guys, you're not going to make the Ritz-Carlton one in the summer?
I'm so sad about that right now because of this medical issue that I'm going through that unfortunately I can't. But I'll be there for me. But yes, I encourage all of you that are looking into R360 to join because it is a family that is amazing, amazing group of people that you will get so much value from. So different than any other group out there. So I just encourage you to look into it, join it. You're going to love it. There's nothing that you're going to say, I don't like about it.
We're united by values and we think wealth is more than money. We launched in DC and not once in like 7 hours did we talk about money. It was all family. Money is just kind of a tool to lead a really good life. And people are more focused on how do we give it away? How do we make an impact? How do we create a legacy? How do we not screw up our kids? How do I, make up for all the time that I've lost, those non-refundable minutes, because I was so busy and focused on creating wealth that I can't spend even if I wanted to now, right? So this has been fabulous, and I hope I will see you at the holiday party, and I look forward to giving you a big hug. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for inviting me. I love to always be able to give value to others and to be on your podcast, be in all the meetings that I enjoy so much. Look forward to every month. So thank you, Charlie.